Welcome back to No Wooden Nickels. What's poppin'? Hey, this is gonna be the part 2 of defeating corruption by law. Almost forgot to do it, so I'm gonna get on here and knock it out for y'all. Just some information that I don't think everybody is privy to. So, nothing wrong with me making you privy to it. Alright, so before I get all the way into it, I got to get the disclaimer out the way. Alright. My content's for educational purposes only. Can't stress enough you guys do your own research. Praise my content or any errors you find in the comments. None of us have been alive long enough to know all that transpired in the past. And none of us can live long enough to know all there is to learn. This next section is labeled Civil Actions. 1 second before I start. Right. Most of the cases filed as civil actions are fraud of attorneys claiming a corporation has rights, privileges, and immunities in court. Excuse me. One more time. Most cases filed as civil actions are fraud of attorneys claiming a corporation, meaning a corporate person, a construction of the government, i.e. Sears, Wingstop, anything you can think of that is a company, i.e. corporation, i.e. corporate person, corporate construct, ens legis, exterminus homo to a degree, yeah. Because the same way you deal with a company is the same way they created your alternate person that gives them access to the body of the living, breathing, sentient being. All right? So, most cases filed as civil actions are fraud of attorneys claiming a corporation has rights, privileges, and immunities in court. Common knowledge dictates a corporation is an artificial person without natural rights. See, the reason why I'm bringing this shit to y'all's awareness is because, just like you just read, it says common knowledge dictates a corporation is an artificial person without natural rights. That's the same thing as a straw man. Only difference is, it's actually equal to a presumption at law. They assume that once you sign the back of that social that you are that corporate person and that you are taking liability for any and all debts that corporate person, corporate entity incurs. Okay? For an attorney to file a civil action with a corporation as plaintiff is clear fraud on the court. A corporation cannot sign a power of attorney or give any attorney verbal instructions to act on its behalf. Therefore, no attorney can lawfully represent any corporation in court. State of Delaware. United States of America. All right. Next section is labeled lawful change. Demand the plaintiff appear because the Sixth Amendment secures that no person will be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Therefore, plaintiff must appear and state he or she is owed a debt. The debtor must be given the right to challenge this debt for validation under 15 United States Code 1692G. Only an injured party can claim a debt is owed. Imaginary persons cannot appear or give testimony and cannot be the plaintiff of any cause of action. Challenge the attorney as a foreign agent under 22 United States Code 611, acting as a foreign agent, i.e. corporation, who has commenced action in violation of the 11th Amendment. Demand dismissal for lack of jurisdiction. And read that again. Only an injured party can claim a debt is owed. Imaginary persons cannot appear or give testimony and cannot be the plaintiff in any cause of action. Challenge the attorney as a foreign agent under 22 U.S.C. 611, acting for a foreign state, corporation, who has commenced action in violation of the 11th Amendment. Demand dismissal for lack of jurisdiction. Next section, principles of law. The people have rights. Corporations do not have rights. Among these rights is the right to contract. The people have this right under 42 U.S.C. 1981. The people exercise this right by their signature and or social security number. Corporations cannot sign and therefore cannot enter into any contract with any attorney. The right to contract is reserved to the people. This is established by the age-old principle of agency. To establish an agency, the principal must ask the agent to perform a task. The agent must agree to perform the task. It is a time-tested principle of American jurisprudence that the court must not rely upon the agent to prove agency. The court must follow the principle to establish agency. The law is simple. No principle, no agency. Hold on. The law is simple, it says. No principle, no agency to capacity to sue. Case must be dismissed. There are many organized crime operations being conducted in the corporate courts of the United States government, in all caps. There are two classifications of courts in the United States of America. There are one Supreme Court and such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. According to Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America, since the Civil War, these courts have been operated as corporate courts. There are no common law courts in what we know as America and mistakenly associate with the United States government. Since the Civil War, again, these courts have been operated as corporate courts for the profit of attorneys who engage in the business of organized crime in these courts. Some of these are as follows. Foreclosure proceedings. This has become a conspiracy against rights under 18 United States Code 241 of judges, attorneys, and banks to steal private property under color of law. Foreclosure is noting more than intimidation. Foreclosure is noting more than intimidation, threats, and coercion of a person to forfeit their private property to an attorney and the judge who sell it to a bank for profit. Foreclosure sale is the attorney selling your private property. usually to a bank sealed bid at a fraction of the value of the property, without proof of ownership. Without proof of ownership. Then the attorney acts on behalf of the corporation to commence and enforce eviction by force of arms of the police, sheriff, deputy, or federal marshal. This is the widest spread organized crime of extortion in American history. The following is the method to defeat this criminal conduct. First thing you need to do is dispute the debt. The attorney's first step is usually to send you notice of foreclosure, giving you 30 days to dispute this debt. The answer is simple to dispute the debt. Method of disputing debt. Send a business letter to the judge, attorney, or mortgage company by certified mail stating as follows: I dispute this debt. I dispute all claims of contract 15 U.S.C. 1692G. Note: 15 U.S.C. 1692A through N, known as the Fair Debt Collection Act, says that says what debt collectors can and cannot do in the process of collecting a debt. You should copy this for your information. Once again, that is 15 United States Code 1692 A through N. It's known as the Fair Debt Collection Act, and it states what debt collectors can and cannot do in the process of collecting a debt. If you go to court, challenge agency of attorney with plaintiff. Challenge attorney's capacity to sue for a corporation as outlined above. Now, I know a lot of y'all may not think that this is important information, but all you got to do is ask somebody that's been subjugated to a foreclosure. If you've never been through one, you can't speak for it. Anyway, that was what I just read. Was after I said if you go to court, that was A. Challenge agency of attorney with plaintiff. Challenge attorney's capacity to sue for a corporation, as outlined above. B. Demand attorney produce the original note for return by the judge if foreclosure is granted. The plaintiff cannot keep the note and take the property. It is lawfully required to give up one or the other. Tell the court you will keep the property until the original note is produced. C. Should the judge refuse to comply with the law, place a 2-cent postage stamp on the back of his order in the lower right-hand corner of each and every page, and sign your name across it. This establishes any further action by the judge is mail fraud under 18 United States Code 1341. This crime should be reported to the postal inspector for investigation and prosecution. Note: every foreclosure can be beat by the simple method. When a corporation receives a promissory note signed by you, they deposit it and receive the amount plus additional money for the purchase of their contract by the Federal Reserve Bank. Your promissory note, your signature is a promise to pay, i.e., a promissory note. See, we have to sidebar. We have to learn how the money system actually works. Until we learn how the money system actually works, we are going to be at the mercy of these criminals. Why do you say criminals, Malik? I say criminals because think about this for 1 second. From pre-K to high school diploma, What do you learn about finance? What do you learn about financial literacy? What do you learn about banking? What, if at all, and I stress at all, do you learn about the monetary system? There's your answer. Okay. These individuals have either been brought up, and as they're being brought up, exposed to that type of knowledge, or their parents send them to the types of school where they are privy to that type of knowledge. What happens when you're not exposed to that type of knowledge? You develop poor spending habits. You become a sole consumer. You know, 9 times out of 10, if you do end up venturing into the investment world, it's on a minuscule level. So, case in point, we're actually behind the 8 ball, and you have a lot of us, people that look just like you and I, that perpetuate this injustice, this miseducation, this purposeful miseducation. How do I know that? Because you have individuals that do know, because they've been either inducted into certain organizations at the upper rungs, and they're given these tidbits of information. And what do? They withhold it. They withhold that information, and instead of giving it, and enlightening those whom they know lack that information, they hoard it. With a sense of entitlement, looking at everybody like this. So, hey man, okay. Let me get back to the note. Note says, every foreclosure can be beat by the simple method. When a corporation receives a promissory note signed by you, they deposit it and receive the amount plus additional money for the purchase of their contract by the Federal Reserve Bank. The promissory note, once monetized, because that's what they do with your signature, your promise to pay, they monetize it. Look it up. Is removed once monetized, is removed from circulation, cannot be enforced. Therefore, a copy of your note is not admissible. Only the original will do to establish right to property. Demand it. It is your right to its return if foreclosure is granted. Next section, labeled tax collection. Another favorite organized crime operation of attorneys and judges is tax collection. In this scam, the United States Attorney acts in fraud to claim the IRS is government and fraudulently claims a debt is owed to government under Title 26 of the United States Code. But the IRS is not government. It is a for-profit corporation, private for-profit corporation. They're it must be dealt with like any other debt collector under Title 15, specifically 15 U.S.C. 1692 A through N, commonly referred to as, once again, the Fair Debt Collection Act. Here are the steps. Step 1, dispute all debts in writing. By answering the claim and placing it in dispute, the IRS is required to prove their claim in court. 15 U.S.C. 1692G. Okay? Step 2, challenge the IRS agent to prove he is a government official. False or misleading statements by a debt collector is prohibited by 15 U.S.C. 1692E. This establishes the crime of fraud, 18 U.S.C. 1001, by the IRS agent. Demand the agent produce the contract you signed with him. You ain't never signed no motherfucking contract with him. You know it, and he know it. When he cannot, no contract is present, no jurisdiction for the court can be established. Out of there. Step 3, validate the debt. It's called a debt validation letter. You can look it up. It's also how you dispute debts with credit collectors, not just debt collectors. The IRS agent always claims you owe this debt, so make them prove their claim. Demand the IRS agent produce the physical human being who assessed your taxes. They have not produced one to date. By not being able to produce the person who assessed your taxes, they cannot validate the debt because it cannot be proven correct or incorrect by cross-examination. Demand a dismissal of all claims. I hope y'all paying attention, man, because this shit ain't as hard as they make it seem. We just have to stop fucking being lazy. We got to stop fucking being lazy and putting our responsibilities in the hands of another motherfucker that has an ulterior fiduciary motive and interest in your laziness. Step 4. If a debt cannot be validated, there can be no collection of it. This is established by 15 U.S.C. 1692G, Section B. Disputed debts, a debt collector must cease collection of all, Disputed debts, a debt collector must cease collection of the debt until it is validated. Step 5, challenge attorney for agency with IRS as outlined above. Step 6, challenge judge for jurisdiction without a lawful claim as outlined above. Now, the next section is dealing with law enforcement. When a debt collector comes to steal your property, call the police. Ask the officer to get the copy of the judgment signed by the judge. If none is present, ask the officer to remove the trespasser from your property. Once again, when a debt collector comes to steal your property, call the police. Ask the officer to get the copy of the judgment signed by the judge. If none is present, ask the officer to remove the trespassers from your property. If a judgment is present, turn it over and put a 2-cent postage stamp on the back lower right-hand corner of every page and sign across the stamp. Hand it back to the officer and tell him this document is mail fraud. Under 18 U.S.C. 1341, a felony crime and you want the officer to return it to the judge for investigation. The document lawfully challenged cannot be enforced. Ask the officer to identify all persons present by proper identification for possible prosecution. Then ask the officer to remove these criminals from your property. Police officers protect rights. If you express your rights, they must enforce them. The problem is, how many of us know our rights? Okay, let me see how much is left to decipher. Yeah. No. Okay, so I'm gonna leave the rest for part 3. As is always, hopefully this has been beneficial information that somebody can use. You don't have to take Malik's word for a fucking thing. Look this shit up. Rewind. Listen to what I said. All those USC numbers, write them down, look them up, read the documentation. If you don't understand or can comprehend, buy you a legal dictionary or look up the legal definition on your phone. I really don't trust the electronics though. That's the reason why they're trying to change the money system to all digital. It's also the reason why they're trying to put everything online so that way they can control. If I can give y'all any advice, it would be to establish your own library. Whatever information is important to you, get it in black and white. That way you can always refer to it as opposed to them barring you from access to said information. So with that being stated, part 3 soon to come. I'm working on some new product. That's what I like to refer to my content as. Working on some new stuff to bring to y'all's awareness, you know, that's pretty much it, man. So I'm gonna go ahead, enjoy my, the rest of my evening, get ready to go in and get this case in the morning. Y'all be easy. Good evening.